Okay, Ricky Whittle, you play Shadow Moon in American Gods, and I think that's the best character name I've ever heard, by the way. It's such a cool name.
It's
And
fantastic. I can't complain.
and it's based on a very successful novel from Neil Gaiman. And I guess that brings up my first question. These book fans can be very, very passionate, whether it's Game of Thrones or Outlander and now American Gods. Are you prepared for the onslaught of fandom that is about to hit you?
Um, I guess so. The more I learned about this project and the more the press have kind of hyped up the show and the fans have been kind of giving all their feedback, the more you realize this really is a huge monster. And it's something that I was very aware of when I was filming, to kind of give that responsibility back, to give the shadow that they have loved for so long. For 16 years, they've kind of, craved an adaptation to TV or film. And so as the actor, I'm not just putting out a fictional character in my eyes. It's almost a biography. It's not like I can just go and put out what I want and how I feel Shadow is. I felt like he had to be a version of Shadow from the book. He had to be this strong, stoic, silent character. But I have worked with Brian Fuller and Michael Green to kind of morph this character to a TV adaptation version. So he's got a few more layers. He's got a bit more anxiety, fear. He's more vocal than the character from the book. And that's been very well received because, he's very blasé in the book, and it kind of goes along with the flow. So it's been a great reception from fans of the book who have seen my nuances and the choices I've made to kind of keep that responsibility and that shadow from the book, but also kind of juice him up a little bit for the TV version.
Yeah, it's no fun to just go, strictly by the book. You always want to create your own kind of character.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that it's the hardest thing to do in the world is to do an adaptation, because for 16 years everyone's loved this book and they've had their version of Shadow and their version of the book and the Crocodile Bar and Wednesday and Sweeney, and everyone's imagination is individual, is budgetless, and it's impossible to please everyone. And there will always be doubters and people who didn't like this casting or this kind of look or this outfit, and but the majority has been overwhelmingly positive, and that's a great coup for Brian and Michael, who kind of really had to work this together. But Neil Gaiman's been a part of the process from the very beginning. Obviously the source material, but he was a part of the casting. There were 1,200 tapes for Shadow, which I found out, which is fantastic. Storyline, episodes, the look of everything. He's been involved from the very beginning. So if he's happy, then I think the fans very much know they're very much in safe hands.
And you have a great network to work on, Stars. They just actually renewed the show last week for season 2. So congrats on that. And where were you? What's your reaction to the renewal?
I don't know. I don't want to seem arrogant, but it feels like it was due, because but I think everyone is on their own project. They always think they're always so proud of what they've done, but this is by far the biggest project I've ever had the opportunity to work on, to lead what I feel is the most impressive ensemble cast I've ever seen on TV. Most networks would love to have that on their whole slate. We have this on one season, not to mention what comes next season. So it's really exciting. I feel that, the renewal so early after just 2 episodes, it really shows that Stars have really got behind us along with Fremantle Media, and they're really aware that they've got a fantastic project here with great actors, a wonderful cast that's working hard, and the reaction has been incredible from fans and media and critics alike. So we kind of felt it was coming, but you never know in this world and in this industry. I've seen fantastic projects kind of fall by the wayside, cancelled after 1 season, and then you'll see shows that go on forever, and you're like, how is that happening? But it's nice to kind of get that support. But we've always felt that love and support from Stars, from Fremantle Media, and but it was just nice to kind of get that little tick. And I myself, knowing the season finale of the first season, I'm itching to find out what happens, because it's not in the book. The season finale is not a part of the book, so no one knows what's going to happen. And so I'm really looking forward to getting back to season 2 and kind of seeing what goes on next.
For the most part, as someone, I have not read the book, so I apologize to all the fans watching this. I have not read the book yet, but How does season 1 correlate to the book? Is it like half of the book, or?
It's not even close, which is the exciting thing, and why we kind of feel like a renewal was due. We cover the first 100 pages. We kind of get to the House on the Rock, which is a very early part of the book. It's probably about a fifth of the way through the story of the book. And then Neil Gaiman's writing a sequel to American Gods. He wrote spin-offs in Monica the Glen and Nancy Boys, Black Rock. So it really has legs to go for a long way. And that's, even if we were just word for word in the book, we felt the show was going to run for 2 or 3 seasons. But where we've been able to kind of really flesh out storylines and characters like Mad Sweeney, who only appears twice in the book, now we kind of see his backstory. We see where he goes throughout that kind of whole time when he's not in the book. Laura's the same. She's very sporadic. Is this my little friend here who's joining us? This is little Buddha, who actually auditioned for the show. He was going to play the cat in the show in episode 4, who's going to be along, and for Bast in future seasons. But he didn't quite make the cut. It's a tough casting process. I've got to say as well, big shout out to Orly Sidowitz and Marjorie Simkin who cast the show, because their eyes have been really fantastic, and that's another thing I'm looking forward to in season 2. If that's our slate for season 1, who's coming in season 2? It's gonna be pretty incredible. I'm really looking forward to it. Maybe Buddha will get in.
Maybe. Oh, we can't wait to see that. Speaking of your cast, Ian McShane is one of my favorite actors of all time.
Yeah.
He's been in this business for decades. Is there anything that you're learning just watching him on set, or anything that he's teaching you about acting?
Everyone. I mean, you got to think, this is an actor I grew up with. For me, he was Lovejoy. For many Americans, he was Deadwood. He made me watch John Wick. I wasn't aware of John Wick, and then he's like, "Oh, you've got to watch John Wick," and now that was like one of my favorite movies. It was incredible. So it's just watching him. I mean, you don't get a better education than watching Ian McShane kind of make his choices and do his thing. Along with like Orlando Jones and Pablo Schreiber, Gillian Anderson, Crispin Glover, Kristen Chenoweth. I'm working with the greats, Peter Stormare. I'm working with these incredible actors on this show. And as actors, you kind of borrow from each other and you watch each other. And that's the great thing about this show, is you're always learning. You're never the finished article. Even Ian himself will say, he's always learning, and he'll watch stuff that I'm doing, that other people are doing, and you kind of borrow different things. And he's one of the finest actors of our generation. And to work alongside all these kind of these greats is a real honor for me, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. And it's a fantastic kind of education, like I said before, to just watch and learn and go toe to toe with these greats. It's not like I'm sat around, because at the end of the day, this is Shadow's story. We follow Shadow through this is told through his eyes. So it's all about my character, and to work, alongside these greats, it's about reacting rather than acting, and to react to an Ian McShane, to react to an Emily Browning it makes my job a little bit easier.
Is it true you guys are from the same city, or is that?
Oh yeah, we're both we're playing American Gods. We're both British. We're both immigrants from Manchester. We're both from the same area. We both support Manchester United, our soccer team, and that's kind of where our relationship started off. When we first met, we kind of found that out straight away. And then, as Brits, football, or soccer as you guys call it, is a religion, and it's very tribal. And as soon as you kind of realize you've got that bond, everything else just falls by the wayside. And so we hit it off straight away, which worked really great and translated to screen very, very well, to the point where a lot of people are talking about the chemistry between Shadow and Mr. Wednesday. They're really kind of loving that dynamic and that kind of, playful to and fro that we've kind of got going on. But that was all down to, us having great chemistry off screen. And he's an incredible guy. I love him to bits. What you don't know about him is he's a big prankster. He's a big joker, and we have a lot of fun on set. So I'm looking forward to working many more years with him.
And we have a question from our editor, Rob Lycrea in Australia. He wants to know about the scene in the pilot where you're hanging from the tree by the noose. What were the challenges in shooting that scene? It looks very, very physically painful.
It was. I mean, first and foremost, it's a very powerful image, and what you're kind of doing when you put that sort of thing on TV. You know, you're making a very large statement, and it's wonderful that we've got the courage to kind of tell these stories. I feel we have a great platform and a responsibility to not only entertain the world with great TV, but also educate them a little bit and to touch on various themes like racism, women's rights, homophobia, immigration, and religion, all these things. It's great that we're able to kind of keep these conversations in the headlines. By that scene, we very much knew what we were doing. But physically, it really was a tough ask, because it was shot in April in Canada throughout the night, and temperatures really did drop. We had a rain machine. I was hanging from a tree. It wasn't actually by the neck, but there was a harness that kind of goes down the back of the neck and kind of holds you in. But it's still very, very painful, because it kind of chafes on all the wrong parts. And as an actor, I like to kind of make sure I'm doing everything, all my own stunts, because then it gives the director freedom to kind of shoot everything. And with David Slade, who did an incredible job on the first 3 episodes, he had a very visual kind of take on everything. It allowed him to shoot whatever he wanted. But, you know, hanging from that tree and being dragged through that mud under the rain machine for hours on end till literally, I think it's like 6, 7 in the morning. You know, it was freezing cold, to the point where I was very stubborn. We have an incredible stunt choreographer and stunt team who always make sure everything's safe. And they would never let me do anything that would really damage me. But that night, I remember kind of going and going and going again, take after take, as we shot every different, you know, angle and things. I was freezing cold, and everyone was very well aware that I was just in a suit, soaking wet, had been from, you know, 11 at night all the way through the morning. And you know, I was freezing cold, and then I started shaking, and my shaking got even more. And I'm an actor. I'm saying, just use it. It's fine. Make it. It makes it real. It's okay. You know, let's go all Daniel Day-Lewis in this. And so I really started shaking, to the point where the choreographer's come up to me and says, "Can you stop shaking your hands?" And I was like, no, I can't. It's, I think this is it. I can try and hold it down or lean on them so they're not so obvious when I hit the water, when I hit the ground and things. And he was saying, "Well, you're cold though, right? You're cold." And I was like, "You know what? I actually don't feel bad. So now I'm feeling quite good. If we can just get a couple more, then I think, yeah, we'll be good for the night." And he was like, "So you're shaking and you can't stop the shaking, but you don't feel cold?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, You're done. That's hypothermia, and you may need to go to hospital. So I think you're done." So they took me down out of the tree, and that was us wrapped for the morning. So yeah, it was very, very physically demanding, but for me, completely worth it, because it was a stunningly shot scene. I thought it was really beautifully done, and with the post team as well, that kind of put the music and the kind of the coloring on it. You know, I think our show has a very distinct look, which is very unique. And that whole sequence, from being, you know, jetted out of a limousine into a field and then strung up from that tree, it was an incredible kind of moment in the first episode. And I see a lot of shows where my friends tell me to watch something, and I say, "Oh, wait till you get into it. It gets really good, and it ramps up and it starts to do this." I feel in episode 1, we hit you straight from the off with Bill Quist's men disappearing in women's areas, you know, black guys being strung from trees, surrounded by faceless guys dressed in white. You know, we really hit you with magic, dynamics, relationships, history. It's all there from the first episode, and you know, I feel that we continue to get better as well as the episodes kind of come out.
I watched the premiere at the Cinerama Dome a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And during that Bilquist scene you mentioned, people were applauding. So it's well done on that one.
I mean, it's a very courageous scene. It's a powerful scene, and it's a scene they said couldn't be done. They said when they read the book, and you know, it went to HBO and all these kind of things, and everyone's got ideas, and no one could figure out how it was done until, you know, Craig Cegilski and Stephanie Burke of Fremantle Media took it to Starz, and Starz were like, "Yeah, we can do this." Brian Fuller was like, "No, that's going to be in," you know, because it's a very iconic part of the book. And you couldn't do American Gods without that scene. And Yetide Badaki is an absolute warrior. You know, she gives incredible performances on so many different layers, you know, because you're talking about gods here, but we ground it by making these very extraordinary people deal with very ordinary circumstances. And here you have a god who just wants to be loved and not forgotten, and that's where she gets her worship. So just on an acting level, she really is a fantastic actress. But with that scene, it's incredible and powerful, not gratuitous at all. It's a really quite a beautiful, sad, shocking moment, and all credit to her. I saw that episode 15 times through the different screenings around and premieres around the world and around America. And every time I watch it, it gets the same reaction. It gets applause, it gets gasps, it gets people just like, WTF, what happened? And that's all down to, you know, the courage of Starz and Brian and Michael bringing Neil Gaiman's work off the page and remaining true to the story. And, you know, it's going to go down as one of those iconic moments in TV, very much like the Jin and Salim in episode 3 with the gay Muslim storyline. You know, it's groundbreaking TV, and we're not afraid to tell real, beautiful stories. You know, it's a shame that it is groundbreaking and that we haven't seen this before. I mean, why do we have to wait till now? Why is this so groundbreaking? These are stories all around the world, and you know, it's beautiful that we're using this platform to tell them and to give them justice. And the way Musa and Omid played those two characters was truly beautiful, and I'm very, very proud of, you know, this incredible cast.
I've seen episode 4, which I think airs next week, and it's my favorite so far. So if fans are watching that haven't seen episode 4 yet, because it doesn't air for a week, you will be very, very entertained by it. It's kind of, I don't want to give anything away, but it's a flashback episode from Shadow's wife's character's perspective.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when you got that script? And the show's already kind of breaking the mold and doing something out of their formula already.
Yeah. We got the first 5 or 6 scripts before we even kind of stepped foot onto set, and reading that, it really was exciting because, again, it's stuff that's not in the book, so it's fresh to everyone's eyes, and it's where you really kind of get to see Brian and Michael really excel with their writing, because they're not kind of shackled to any responsibility at that point, and the way they tell the story and link Neil Gaiman's incredible writing and how they arc it all together is truly just genius, because they're moving this storyline and the timeline all around. But you also get to see how Shadow was before he kind of lost everything. As an actor, you know, in his name himself, he's Shadow Moon. He's a shadow of his former self. So when we meet Shadow, I by purpose, I worked backwards and had this empty vessel who really had the world on his shoulders. And as we kind of go, you saw in episode 3, you kind of see glimpses of his humor come back in when he says he likes marshmallows, and the Jesus talk in the Kinko's photocopy place. But it's all up to building a Shadow that has gained his confidence back, and kind of gets his personality back. He has to earn that personality back. But in episode 4, we see him pre-loss of Laura, pre-gods, pre-all this kind of craziness. And it's very interesting to kind of see that for the fans, and they'll see that there's a big difference. And we also get to see more of the incredible Betty Gilpin, who was an absolute riot in the first episode.
Genius.
Comedy is hilarious in this episode. You know, the kind of the scenes between Emily Browning and Betty Gilpin when she returns is hilarious. Again, without giving spoilers away, you're working with some comedy genius there, and it's real, it's grounded, and you forget that two women are just you're just watching two women argue about an affair, about just talking about you slept with my husband, and you forget that one of them's dead. You know, back from the dead. You get so drawn in, and it really is incredible. It's, as you said, it's one of my favorite episodes, and it's a complete departure from the main storyline. It just fills in a lot of the blanks, because by design, the show is meant to become confusing at the beginning, and I see a lot of people kind of commenting how I love it, but I don't know what's going on. You're not supposed to, because Shadow doesn't understand either. And as we're kind of following Shadow's story, as he puts the pieces together, the audience can put the pieces together. So, you know, when you get a puzzle, you start with one piece, which is Shadow. You add Mr. Wednesday, Sweeney, Laura, and you add all the pieces together, and then eventually the picture makes sense. So as Shadow's kind of figuring this out, the audience will then be able to figure this out. But this is one of the kind of pieces that is a very big part and kind of tells you kind of what else is kind of going on. We'll see a lot more from Chris Obi as well, who plays Anubis, who's got a very powerful piece, and then Damar Barnes as well as Ibis. That kind of duo is a lot of fun in the book, and we bring them to screen with kind of Laura's backstory.
Well, final question before we go, I have to ask, I'm the biggest X-Files fan in the world. What was it like working with Dana Scully herself, Gillian Anderson?
Do you know how hard it was to not call her Scully? It was insane. It was like, I was like, oh. So the first scene was the Lucille Ball, the I Love Lucy scene in the store, and I was so excited. I, like you, have grown up with Scully. Right. X-Files. You know, Mulder and Scully was my jam. That was my thing, and I was so excited. And I saw her in makeup, and we were talking about her charity, and I drew a doodle for her charity, and I was like, oh my goodness, Gillian Anderson just asked me to do something for her charity, and she was so cool in the makeup chair, and she was so wonderful. And so we went to set, and we kind of went through it and stuff. And then when we went to go for the take, she was saying, you can go home. I was like, excuse me? She was like, well, I'm just gonna be talking to the camera, so you know, don't worry about it. You can just go there. I don't need you here. And I was like, oh, okay. That's fine. I get it. You know, I don't want to distract you. But I was really gutted. I mean, I'd literally worked all day, every day for like a whole month. It was chock-a-block. I hadn't had any time off. And then the one time I actually really, really, really wanted to work, Gillian Anderson gave me the afternoon off. So I was very grateful. I was really gutted because I really wanted to work with her. But, you know, she was talking straight down the lens, so she didn't actually need to see me. And she said it was just going to be distracting if I was beside the camera. But she's a phenomenon. She's incredible. You know, when people exceed your expectations like that, you know, like Kristen Chenoweth, Crispin Glover, you know, Peter Stormare, Ian McShane, they all kind of have exceeded my expectations. You know, sometimes you're scared to meet your idols and these great kind of actors because you don't want to be disappointed. Gillian Anderson will blow your minds. And I eventually did get to kind of, you know, to work with her, and it was fantastic. But I think, I'm not sure how much I can say about her different personalities as media coming up, but David Bowie blows my mind. Her as David Bowie is one of the best things you'll see on TV. She is incredible, and I'm looking forward to the world seeing that. I think David Bowie, Gillian Anderson dressed as David Bowie T-shirts will be everywhere.
I'm gonna have to get one of those.
Oh, Brian Fuller and Michael Green have already given all the cast and stuff. These David Bowie T-shirts. Well, they're media T-shirts actually, but she's dressed as David Bowie, and they're great T-shirts. And you know, people are going to lose their minds when they see it. They're going to want them everywhere. But that's down to Gillian just doing an incredible job of kind of portraying these kind of iconic stars of the past.
Well, thank you for talking with us today. Our fingers are crossed that Emmy voters are watching the show, and that when it comes time to mark their ballots, they remember your performance, and they remember all of the great technical aspects of the show as well. So we're rooting for you guys. No,
I really appreciate it. Definitely check out the rest of our team. You know, the post team with the special effects, the sound, you know, the music. I'm really proud of that. You know, every element of this team, and I'm glad everyone's enjoying it, and hopefully they get to enjoy it for many more years to come.
Cool. Thanks, Ricky.